Our guest today is Irene Yam. Irene is an expert in customer advisory boards and the founder of CAB Consulting, where she specializes in building strong, meaningful connections between executives and customers through impactful customer advisory boards. Indeed, Irene is with us today to talk about her book, Build a World-Class Customer Advisory Board, where she provides us with some essential strategies for businesses to drive loyalty and innovation and competitive advantage. So, Irene, welcome to the program today. Look, tell us a little bit more. What is a customer advisory board, and why do you believe CABs are so crucial for modern businesses today?
Thank you. And thank you, Kevin, so much for having me. I really appreciate your time. I'm a big fan, by the way. I've been listening for years. So a customer advisory board, or CAB for short, think of it like a focus group with customers. You're breaking down that wall or that two-way mirror where you're finally getting to speak to your customer. Typically, when you start engaging with your customer, you try to win the deal. So you're on the call as an executive, you're giving them your best, or you're being yelled at like, hey, you need to fix this. I'm a happy customer. But the board is the opposite. You come together. You're both on the same plane. In fact, while the company is asking for advice, it's vice versa. It should be really this advisory board for both sides. So right now, I think this is crucial because oftentimes we're so invested in all these digital tools, cookies, apps, everything to follow the customer, surveys, and we're only looking at surface. We're not really diving deep. Okay, we're counting clicks and how people, but we're really not understanding the actual customer use case. Here, executives can ask that, and they can validate a lot of their questions or things that they're thinking about 5 years, 10 years from now, what to build, how to keep competitive.
Now, can you explain how a customer advisory board differs from, say, a traditional focus group or other customer
Yes.
feedback mechanisms?
Yeah. So today, most customer advisory boards are done in person. So they're usually a 1 to 2. Think of them like an offsite retreat for people to go away. So we fly out customers to an off-site retreat, or they can be done virtually. But mostly they're more collaborative and fun if you do it 1 or 2 days. Now, the virtual kind is where you can have a Zoom, but they're a lot harder. We'll get to that, I'm sure. You'll probably ask me some questions about that.
Well, in your book, you emphasize the importance of trust in CABs. What are some key strategies for fostering this kind of trust and the trust between executives and customers during these meetings?
And thank you for asking that question. So, with building trust with your customers, this is really done first by human engagement. I first start out with when I talk to a customer to have them join the board, I actually ask them, what are the top projects? Do you have questions for us ahead of time? Could you share these projects? Wow, you have an innovative story. Do you mind sharing that? And I put that all together and I ask the board to do some homework. So I create these slides with them. And then right before the board, I actually talk to each customer and I share a little bit about each board member and the executives. And they're like, wow, I could talk to Kevin, I could talk to Mary, I could talk to them about projects that I'm actually interested in doing too. Oh, they're opening an office in Sao Paulo. I'm actually interested in talking to them about that. How did they get that up and running there? So these things start the conversation, start the human connection. The other is making sure you have events for networking. So start your event with either an icebreaker or a networking event. You might have like a happy hour, right? Or have people around. But if you're virtual, you might want to start with an icebreaker, right? Getting to know somebody. Maybe it's something as simple. What was your all-time favorite concert? And that makes it interesting. It doesn't have to be about business. You want to get to know people.
All right, for our listeners who may be interested in doing this, what are some of the most common challenges that companies face when setting up a customer advisory board? What do you recommend and how can they overcome these obstacles?
Right. Well, so the CAB is sort of like a black box. If you're not a seasoned like executive who's been invited to speak at one or be a part of one or be an executive sponsor, oftentimes a lot of people think of it as a sales event. Okay, we're going to wine and dine them. in New York City. We're going to take them to a Michelin star restaurant and we're going to ask them some questions, but we're also going to tell them about how great our products are, right? And that's actually the opposite. We need to be thinking about strategy. We need to be thinking about how can we validate some of those things that are lingering, but not only just that point of time, but how can we have a board where we can talk to them throughout the year, in years? I still keep in touch with a lot of our customers. I still reach out. We still talk. We've even become friends. They've even been advisors to me about this book. I've actually asked them, what do they want to hear in this book? I've had the interviews in the book as well, their stories. So it's all about thinking ahead, making that connection, and trusting your customers, long life, long tail. You can reach out to them, say, hey, I was thinking about buying a company. What do you think? You don't have to start all over again, all that background, that context. Once they're your customer advisory board member, and once you've built that connection, it's a reciprocity where you're sharing and you're connecting and asking for advice.
We are here today speaking with Irene Yam. She is the founder of CAB Consulting, and we're talking about her book, Build a World-Class Customer Advisory Board, and some essential strategies for businesses to leverage the use of a customer advisory board for innovation and competitive advantage. Now, Irene, your book outlines 5 principles for creating a world-class customer advisory board. We don't have time to cover all 5 principles in great detail, but briefly, what are those principles and why
Yeah.
are they so important?
Thank you. Well, first, it's be respectful of time, right? Be thoughtful, be empathetic when you're thinking about building a cab, and also prepare. That's the third one. Make sure you're also following your cab mission. So you share that mission with your customers on the board. So we all know we're on the same North Star. We're all focused. And then make sure, lastly, take action, follow up. Don't just nod your head and then delegate that off to someone else. Like actually have the CEO follow up directly with the customer.
Now, virtual CAB meetings have become
Mhm.
more and more common. What are some top tips for
Yes,
ensuring that these meetings are engaging and effective?
right. Well, we were just talking about how it's great to have in person, and now we've really shifted since the pandemic. Everyone's used to having Zoom. It's low cost, right? Less people fly. So, but it's not the same. You can't have a 3 hour cab or customer advisory board online. People are going to be typing, chasing after their dog, getting lunch. One moment, I have a bio break, right? Things like that. So break it up into series. I ask people, say, can we take 90 minutes for the first one? So you can have a 2 series, a 3 series. So I like 90 minutes for the first one, and then a subsequent 1 hour for each. And you can either have them all in one quarter or back to back every week. It just depends on the engagement, the content that you're producing, and then also you're getting feedback. And also it shouldn't be death by slides. Okay. Try focusing and listening to what your customers need first. Prepare, listen, then pick 1 or 2 things to talk about because it's not all about you talking. When I say you, I mean the company talking. Oh, let's show you what we've done. No, it's about engaging, asking each customer advisory board member what they think. Those all those little small tiles you can't see and you can't have that feeling of connection. Right now, you and I are I know that the podcast is a podcast, but right now we're looking at each other. We're making a connection, right? And that's the difference in a virtual customer advisory board. You want to have a small customer advisory board too. Start with 5. Don't have 10 people. Don't have also a bunch of people from corporate joining. It should be small. It should be where you have maybe 3 executives listening because it shouldn't be where, hey, we're the big customer, we're the big, sorry, company, and we're interested in listening. Let's have actually, 3 to 5. So 3 executives, 5 customers.
Now, Irene, I'm a big believer in the adage, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, what are some of the measurable benefits of a
Mhm.
well-executed customer advisory board, and how can companies demonstrate the return on investment?
Mhm. Well, so remember when I said don't make it a sales event? The outcome can turn it into a sales event. So, for example, I've been in a lot of companies that were going up market, meaning they were used to selling to small and then mid-size, and then they were going upwards to sell to enterprise. And a lot of times, enterprise buys a startup or a feature, a functionality because they really need it. They really are impressed with that stack or their engineering. But then after being a part of the cab, they're like, oh, I didn't know they offered that. So they go back, they contact their salesperson, and then they say, let's see a demo, let's try it out. And then months later, usually more than half of the customer advisory boards either buy professional services, custom engineering, a new or buy a new product from that platform. So that is a hard dollar. Now I have to use that sometimes for justification, but I actually like to think about it in the soft KPIs. So the soft KPIs are where your customer becomes an advocate. They take calls for you. Maybe you're going to get new funding. You need more funding. Putting a customer to share their story, how they use your product in production, how they're seeing growth in their business. That to me is more than closing a bunch of deals at the end. Don't get me wrong, but it's really those customers advising or those advisors, those customers hearing something that they heard through the grapevine about a competitor, or they were sitting in a meeting where they heard something about a competitor and they're now sharing it back with the CEO or CTO. Hey, we heard this. This is, by the way, this is happening. Maybe you want to go validate that, right? So they're your eyes and ears. These advisory board members, if you really cultivate the relationship, it's not even that 1 year time frame that they serve, it's evergreen where you have that relationship.
How does this play out in the real world? Can you give us an
Yeah.
example of one organization that you feel has been particularly successful using this approach? What did they do, and what were the results?
Well, I like to have aha moments in customer advisory boards. So I'm going to give you an example of a very nimble security company. So this security company decided to have a mix of CISOs and directors and VPs and even some engineers as customer advisory board members. Now you think, why would they do that? But they wanted all perspectives. This was a very talented and smart, sharp customer product officer who decided, you know what? After actually mingling with everyone and people seem to be really exchanging, I'm going to, before lunch, share my big grand idea. He took a big, bold move. Usually you ask this big thing after lunch because you need more connection, more breaks, more lunches, more meals to have people feel comfortable sharing. But he said, I'm going to share. So he was like, I'm going to build this. This is really big. This is going to take a long time. Should we wait and build this properly, or should we partner with someone or OEM with someone? Actually, it was quiet. And one person said, you know what? Build it. We'll buy it. And this was a very large insurance company. And then a big retailer said, yes, we will do so. And everyone started nodding and said, yeah, this is perfect. We don't need to buy them anymore. We'll buy your stuff. We like your stuff anyway because you're brand new. You created a new stack. Those guys are dinosaurs. And all this energy was even, then we went to lunch and everyone was so excited. They were talking about this use case, that use case. And so now we're having virtual cabs to give an update. And there's this great energy. Now we're not able to meet after, we're not able to fly everyone again because no one has time for that. But continuing the conversation together, getting ideas, showing them a mock-up or even a prototype, that's what that's the aha moment is even sharing those little things, not little things, big things, I'm sorry, to get people and customers engaged with like how would they really use it is a big thing for all the executives to listen to because it helps them focus on the priorities and it also says, okay, our strategy is on point. And we heard it from all these customers.
We have been speaking today with Irene Yam. We're talking about her book, Build a World-Class Customer Advisory Board, How to Create Deeper Relationships and Validate Strategies. Now, Irene, we have reached the action item round of the program. I'm wondering if you could please provide us with three quick action items that our listeners can do to take advantage of the ideas and advice in your book.
Yeah. Well, first, I would think about all your goals. What are your goals that you really would like to validate from your customers? Should expansion? Should they spend more money on R&D? Should they hire more sales? Are they ready? So start thinking about that and start being vulnerable. Like these are things that you can work on first. Now, maybe there are leaders that don't feel comfortable doing this. Find a leader that can have that engagement. I will tell you throughout 24 years, 26 years of doing this, this is what matters. This, by you showing you need help, customers are all willing to help. So that's the second one, being vulnerable. And then I think lastly, really think about what your customers want to hear. So go back when you're about to present, show them the final agenda, review it, ask them for their feedback. If they have a story that they want to share, invite them to share. It shouldn't be about just the company presenting. Think about having maybe a customer who's been with you for a long time to talk about how they're using the product to a new customer who's just started using the product and why did they select? Because all these customers they all started different points of time. So hearing why a new customer decided to choose this business or choose this strategy is really engaging for a board. So you don't want it to be a one-sided board. You want to have customers also share. So those are the three.
Well, Irene, it has been great speaking with you today. We're almost out of time, but before I let you go, one last question.
Yeah.
What should executives and business owners be thinking about now and strategizing for today in order to be prepared for the world in 5 years' time?
Well, I think it's time to actually invest in customer advisory boards. I think that don't want to do it because it takes too much human time. They want to invest in an app or add a cookie or all that. Don't get me wrong, or you use AI. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're even humans are training AI, right? We're training the AI. So we need to get closer with our customers. We need to be thinking ahead. Should we just start regionally and then progress to going to different countries? So, big companies like Microsoft, they didn't start in Korea first. They first started in Seattle. They took their customers, they flew them in. So, in other words, start now, start small, and then start thinking about going to different places and getting customer feedback. Don't make it about shiny, fancy dinners. Make it about coming together and really talking because all those long tail stories, those stories with those customers will help your long tail approach.
That is Irene Yam. Get her book, Build a World-Class Customer Advisory Board. Irene, it has been fantastic speaking with you today. Thank you for being our guest on Everyday MBA.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Such a joy. Appreciate it.